Hi everyone, I'd like to show you how you can make a very stunning border idea using just one of my stencils. This is made using the Diamond Stencil set and just some very basic rulers that you already have in your house. This is on a 4-inch border. You could repeat this on different sizes of borders. There's all kinds of things you could do with this. You could echo the shape, you could free motion fill around it. What I decided to do was put some pebbles in the center and then just some straight lines on the outside. Very, very simple quilting plan for this, but you could totally make it your own. And this is just using one of the sheets of the stencil sets that we've just created. They're called Decorative Collage Stencils. And I'm going to show you how I made that with just this stencil here. Okay, so what you're going to need is, of course, the stencil, a plain quilting ruler, and I use a pencil as well as, this is a Bic Intensity. It's kind of like a fine Sharpie. You can use that. And then I keep on hand as well another ruler that's just 1 inch wide, just for marking some smaller lines and reference points. Very, very easy to set this up. So I'm going to flip the page over, show you how it's done. Okay, so we've now got a clean slate. And I'm going to set up a 4-inch border. So if you have a 4-inch ruler, awesome. I don't, so I'm going to use my 6.5 by 12.5 inch quilting cutting ruler, and I'm just going to make a straight line from one end to the other, and then I'm going to shift it up so that, or actually I'm going to rotate it around so that I have another spot I can make a line 4 inches away. So there it is there, and I'm going to just make that line right there. So this is just defining our border space. So if you're working on a drawing and you want to draw it first, sketch it out in pencil, get your ideas down. Or if you're really confident, you can go straight to your quilt top with a water-soluble marking pen. I prefer the water-soluble for this kind of marking versus the air-soluble, because the air-soluble, the marks will disappear before you get a chance to go in and quilt them. So I use a water-soluble pen. So here's my defined space, my 4-inch border. Now, if yours has the extra half or a quarter of an inch over here for the binding, you'll need to keep that in mind. And let's pretend that this side right here is the quilt and this is the edge of the border, okay? So you're going to mark the center of this border section, and that's going to be, if it's a 4-inch border, it's going to be 2 inches in. So you don't want to mark 2 inches in from this side, you want to mark 2 inches in from the quilt side, right? So I'm going to just lay my ruler down, and you'll mark this again on your quilt top with your disappearing pen. Just a nice faint line. It doesn't need to be a dark line, it just needs to be enough that you can see where it is. Okay, this is a 12-inch ruler, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark down here. I want to find the center as well, so I'm going to line my ruler up. Now there may be some math that you need to do depending on how many times you want to repeat this motif down your border, and then you could create something different and unique for the corners as well, which I will experiment with showing you some different ideas on how to do borders with this same kind of setup. So we're going to take our diamond quilting stencil, and I mentioned in previous video when I introduced these stencils to everyone that we really experimented with the kind of plastic that we felt was best for this kind of use. And because these are not a stencil where most quilting stencils are a predefined shape and size, and you only have a 6 or 8 or 10-inch block size of a stencil, and then you just mark the lines with either a pounce or a disappearing pen. These stencils are different. These are individual shapes and different sizes on each sheet. So you just determine which size is the best for the space that you're working in. And because you need to be able to see what's going on underneath, and you're creating and designing as you go, we felt it was really important to make these stencils crystal clear so you could see what was going on behind. It looks in this video that there's a bit of a tint to it, but as you can see, they're not. So they're a little bit on the thin, a little bit thinner than your standard typical quilting stencils that you may have seen. But the reason for that is we wanted the clarity. So when you go thicker, you can't see through them as well. So here we're going to place our first one. I'm going to start with the largest diamond. I'm just going to flip back for a second here and show you again what we're recreating. So this is the very first diamond, the large shape that we're going to pop in there. Okay, so I'm going to rotate this, and I've got my reference lines, my center point, which I can line up at each end point, and then my center point going vertically. I can line all those up to know exactly where I need to place my diamond so it will be square. And I'm going to switch pens so that you can see. I'm going to use my Sharpie pen because I want you to be able to see what I'm doing. I just used the pencil for the registration marks. And now I'm going to go ahead and trace my first diamond. So there's my first diamond shape in there. Okay, now we need to add the next diamond shape. And I didn't go with the same size. I tapered down to a smaller diamond. So to remember which one I used, I'm just going to place it right on top. That was the size that I used there. I had to remember that. So the next thing I'm going to do is, and I determined this as I went along. I take another ruler and I marked down a line at the very tip of this diamond here so that I would have another straight line to work with. So I'm going to do that on both sides. Now this isn't something that I pre-planned out ahead of time. This is something that I designed as I was going. So if you are at all like me and find it difficult to plan too far ahead, this is what's nice about these stencils is you can choose a size that fits the space on the fly. Okay, so this is the next one that we're going to use right here. Is it for sure the same size? Let me just double check. And it is. Okay, so now I'm going to use this line that we made here because I want my corners of my diamond to line up with the tip of the previous diamond. So I'm going to just line up this point on these lines here, and then the sides of my diamond there. And I'll go back in with my felt marker or my Sharpie and trace that one in and not go all the way through. I'm just going to go up to the tip, to the edge where it touches the center diamond. And I'm going to go over here and do the same thing on the other side. All you're doing is just lining up so that it's on those lines. I'm not a very good drawer, but with these, it really, really helps you. So there's our first two sets. You can see how it's going to start to take shape here. Now, what did we use for our smaller one? Let me just see. It's this one. So I'm going to flip back over and I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to make another line where the tip of that ended up, just for reference. Make another line and make sure that you keep these lines, the ones that are going here, and you keep those lines nice and straight as well. And that will keep your design nice and straight and even as you travel down. Okay, so lining this up again right here and these two sides as well, and not going all the way through. I'm just starting where it touches that there. And the same thing on the other side. And then we get to experiment with some fun stuff in the middle. Okay, so now we've got the foundation of our design done. How fast was that? Really, really quick, right? Now I'm going a little bit slower because I'm explaining it as we go, but this is what we're heading towards. Okay, so now I can play with some other smaller ones on the inside. And here again is where I like that our stencils are crystal clear because they're a little bit thinner, is I can audition shapes inside and say, okay, what size of diamond do I want on the inside of here? How much space do I want to have? If I put this one in here, I find that the space might be a little bit too small. I really liked the way this one looked on the inside. So I'm going to line it up again on those registration marks, this tip, all four, and just draw another line. You could make that any size you want. And then because these got smaller as we went out, I'm going to make these ones a little bit smaller as well, trying to keep the same distance in between. That's approximately a 1/2 inch there. Well, it's exactly a 1/2 inch. And so if I choose one here, and I want that to be proportionately the same amount smaller, then I'll choose one that's a 1/2 inch away. A 1/2 inch distance in between. There. Same thing on the other side. I try to do the other side right away as soon as I'm done the other one. That way I don't have to fuss around with lining it up, trying to figure out what size did I use. And then now we'll go to the very smallest one, which gives us a 1/2 inch away from the outside. And all we did to set this up was just draw a few straight lines. We do a crosshair basically, and then we added some registration lines as we went so that we could line up the outside corner of these, the width of the diamonds, with the tip of the previous diamond. Pretty simple. Pretty simple. Now all you need to do is go in and decide how you want to fill these space. This is it. That's all it takes to do it. Do you want a pebble on the inside? I just did a nice little straight line pinstripe on the outside edge. You could do whatever you want. You could free motion out here and then straight lines on the inside, all kinds of ideas. And that is just from one stencil in our set. There are endless possibilities to create different designs using these stencils. So there's our 4-inch diamond border idea. I hope you'll want to give it a try for yourself. You can head over to our website, loveshackquilts.ca, and get a set of these awesome stencils for yourself. Thanks for watching.